Hi, my name's Dan Keane. I'm a composer, producer and musician based in London. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well. This is the Roland Boutique JU-06A, an update from the JU-06, which was an emulation of the iconic Roland Juno 60 from 1984 with all the familiar sounds that the original was famous for. The original Juno 60 and 106 didn't have loads of features, but what they did really well. From the inbuilt oscillator to the filters, the two iconic choruses and delay, I think you're going to love this little bit of kit, which comes in at £350. Now, this synth has a surprisingly full port selection with a micro USB port, a volume knob, audio output, MIDI in and out, a Kensington lock, and external clock input. It also has a battery compartment and better than expected speakers, so you can create the 80s nostalgia of your dreams from anywhere. Now, if it couldn't get any cuter, you can also attach a K25M keyboard to make this the self-sufficient music-making machine you've always wanted to take to the park. Now, of course, you could do that, and you could even just use a little battery bank plugged into the USB port and create fader bank presets to your heart's content. For me, in my use case, I just tend to use it with Logic, and so I use this single USB cable that goes into my computer, and I'm going to show you how to set this up in Logic now. So the first thing you need to do is go to your audio preferences, and once you've installed the drivers, you'll see this turn up here, Boutique JU-06A. That's my input. My output device here is my Apollo, and then what I need to do is create two tracks. The first is an external MIDI, and the second is an audio track, which I'm going to set to stereo, and I'm going to record enable both of these and then hit the record enable button. And then, as if by magic, now, from right to left here, we've got our envelope controls, ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, and release. So we can adjust, we can have a really short attack, or we can have a really long attack. You can kind of adjust that as you go. The same with release here. Then we've got our VCA, this is the level output. Then we've got our VCF. My one thing that I wish we could do with this is to set the BPM of the rate, because it's impossible to get it within this, what must be like a 2 centimeter fader. Then we've got our frequency and resolution. Now we're already reaching the first limit of this, which is that it only has 4 simultaneous polyphonic voices. This isn't really a problem because if you're recording into your DAW, you can just create more and more tracks if that's what you want to do. But I think it's good to create this sense of limitation because that's really what this thing is all about. I think its kind of primary audience is for people who want the tactile feeling of playing with the faders, twiddling the knobs and things like that, but also having it in this hybrid workflow. Got a noise generator. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of noise. It's just a big toy. Isn't it weird how when you try to write stuff in the style of the 80s, it can sound strangely baroque and like Bach could have written that? Better than anything, it inspires me. It inspires me to come up with new sounds. It encourages me to write something that I've never written before. It also just encourages me to write in a style that I never normally write either. You know, I wasn't born in the 80s. I wasn't around when this stuff was around, but I can integrate it into my workflow. And that's really exciting. Now for me, I do tend to use this when I'm in the creative world, when I want to create something that is bespoke, because it works best to have one hand on the keyboard and one hand on the faders. It's for that kind of use, really, for creating your own sounds. And I think when you're doing stuff like that, I think it works really, really well. Now, I do also have the Arturia V collection. And I would say I do use that more than I use this, because for me, it's in a slightly different headspace to be working with stuff in a slightly more tactile way. I'm still quite in the digital world. And if I'm writing a piece of music and I need to add a little pad part, I'm less likely to reach for this, even though it's right in front of me. I'm less likely to reach for this, set up the external MIDI instrument and record enable an audio track. When I'm in the mock-up demo stage, I'd much rather keep everything MIDI. But that being said, it is obviously great that you can record all of the MIDI information, and of course you can create your own patches as well. That's really, really helpful. I'd say my workflow for this is to create a patch that I really, really like, and then I will literally sample it into Logic, put it in EXS or Contact, and then use that as a pad to get me started, or an arpeggiator or whatever, to get me started to move on to the next stage in my creative process. I love the fact that I can make these sounds. I love the fact that it's pretty much 99% of the way there in comparison to the original. And for the price, I think it's pretty great. And you know what? I just love that Roland have decided to do this, to create emulations that are accessible for people who want to inject a little bit of Juno into their life. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators, with a community of millions of members. Whether you're looking to learn new skills or pursue a passion that you've had for a while, Skillshare has something for everyone. For me, I recently used Skillshare to learn how to draw a replica of my beautiful Wurlitzer 200 with the help of a fantastic class on Skillshare called iPad Art Using Textures in Procreate by Nick Squirrel. Skillshare is specifically designed for learning, so there are no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes so you can get started on something new when creativity strikes. The first 1,000 people to click the link down below will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. Start your creative journey today. So if I go to record here, you can see that as I'm twiddling these knobs around, I'm actually triggering MIDI information. And this is particularly good because it means that if you come out of your recording, and actually I did that a little bit too quickly there, you can just adjust it and then re-record your parts. So I would then delete that and then hit record, and it would then... I find that I don't tend to use it in the way that it was intended. I don't tend to kind of move all of these and save fader banks and things like that. I tend to start from scratch every single time. Now I find that this chorus is absolutely amazing, and you know, it's surprising how much of a difference it can make having a stereoizer in a synthesizer just built in there. If I play just the kind of basic sound, in fact I'll switch over to the 106 now. So if I just play this by itself, this 106 is so punchy. If I add the first chorus, this is the most subtle. And then of course, now there's a really great selection of presets in here, and this is a great way to get started, but you can save your own presets as well. Let's just have a play with this. The bass on this is absolutely brilliant. can take on the sound of an organ as well if you want it to. It's a toy. I could play with this thing all day, but it's 10 to 11 at night and I should probably go home. So would I recommend the Roland Boutique JU-06A? Well, I would. I would recommend it if you want to have the sound of the 80s in your toolkit. I think it's a really fun bit of kit. I think it's something that people are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of. And I do think that it's very, very creative. Having that tactile effect of being able to manipulate sounds as you're playing them. If that's the kind of thing that sounds like it's up your street, then I think it's great. Would I have this over a virtual version of it? I don't think I would. I think if I had to have this or the Arturia version, I think I'd still take the Arturia because you can still manipulate all of the stuff. And if you've got a MIDI keyboard that's got lots of MIDI controllable faders, I think it's still really good for that. But I think this is just a lot of fun. And the fact that Roland Boutique exists to bring back the iconic sound of these iconic synthesizers, I think is really, really great and a very good use of technology. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.